Sorry about that. So, yeah, I thanked people before, and I said that I was going far away from the farms. And where I'll be talking is not to the choir that's, or about the choir that's in this room, but rather about the congregation, which is the general population. I mean, the folks here are already converts to thinking about things in a manner that I think the majority of folks out there don't even realize that there's something to think about. And so if I can figure out how to move this, I want to talk about how the world we live in, and those are my little girls, the world that we live in has become, for most kids and adults, a candy store. And before I get to the world being a candy store, I want to remind you of this event. So this was Hurricane Katrina. It was August 29th, 2005. The winds that were being sustained were 175 miles an hour. It's the costliest natural disaster in the history of this country. The floodwaters went in about 12 miles. 90,000 square miles were described as a natural disaster. There were 1,800 deaths. I think it was $81 billion in damage. This was a very obvious flood. It was hard to mistake this for anything else. I would argue that we have a flood today too. It's a different sort of flood. This is a flood of cheap calories. We heard a little bit of discussion on cheap calories before. It's a flood of poorly nutritious food-like products that are about as far away from an identifiable source as a person might imagine. And food activists like me, I'm not in the food system sphere like you folks are, but my circles, we tend to shake our fists angrily at, big food, at the food industry, and we get mad at McDonald's for preying in a predatory manner by selling toys along with not particularly wonderful food. Or we'll get mad at PepsiCo for hiring Beyonce, idolized by teens around the world, to sell sugar water. And a lot of times the message that is conveyed is that the food industry is somehow evil. That they are doing these things because they are inherently evil people. And I disagree. And it's interesting, I've been involved now in 3 debates in various conferences where I was tasked with the job of resolving that the food industry was a foe and not a friend, where of course my opponent would try to resolve that it was a friend. And I think that to suggest that the food industry can be either is flawed. Now, the food industry can't be a friend or a foe because to be one of those requires the luxury of being able to proceed along a path of clear intent divorced from profit. And the food industry simply cannot do that. And that's not a vilification of the food industry. It's not a condemnation of them. It's a simple truth. When Kellogg's took the salt, or when Campbell's took the salt out of a bunch of soups 3 years ago, when they didn't sell, they had to put the salt back in. PepsiCo, who hired Beyonce as part of a $500 million reinvestment into sugar water, did so after shareholders got mad. Too much money was being spent on the less awful products. I don't like to call them healthier. So I don't think that the food industry is our friend or our foe, and I tend to shake my fist at them sometimes when they're deceitful, but really I shake my fist at us, in a sense. Society. I stepped off a plane about 8 weeks ago, maybe a little bit less, in Halifax. And I wandered over to the desk to find out where the car was, because they had sent a car to come and grab me. And at the desk was this cup full of lollipops. Because of course, everybody needs a lollipop when they're waiting to find out where their taxi is. This is in the Children's Hospital in London, Ontario. It is a make-believe McDonald's where you can go through the drive-thru. This one is from the Ontario Science Centre in Toronto. It's the largest one in the country. They were having an exhibit on video games. And this is what they were selling in the Science Centre. The Gamer's Grub Combo, which was pop, chips, chocolate for $6.49. 3 weeks ago in the newspaper, in the Globe and Mail, was this advertisement for historic landmark, Fort York. During the War of 1812, young kids entered Fort York full of courage, strength, and pride. This weekend, they'll leave full of cookies, cake, and candy. Because really, there is no event too small anymore to be christened, to not be christened with candy or with junk food. This was a reader sent me this when I write a blog, and this reader sent me this from her kids' preschool, where clearly they are teaching kids two things. One, how not to spell the word loving, and the other, that McDonald's is a very normal thing, and in fact, using the McDonald's slogan of "I'm loving it." It's normalizing something that should not be normal. And what's most amazing, that rarely do people say boo about this. This is the Read Your Heart Out program, designed by Pizza Hut, where elementary school students, and this is across North America, this is not simply in Canada, they are awarded a personal pan pizza for reading. I suppose reading is not an award sufficient in and of itself. Now we have to give them pizza to do it. This was from a library in Guelph, Ontario, where if you showed up and told them which exam you were studying for, you would be rewarded with snacks. And this from a library in your country, where Whoppers and cookies were handed out with their free book bag. And this one, where if you registered for a library card, you got a coupon for your free McDonald's treats. This was an internet safety lecture for 10-year-olds at a mall. And of course, you get McDonald's French fries for going to that. This was given to a 9-year-old for being a good patroller in their school, valid at participating restaurants. And if you win your track meet, yes, again, you get McDonald's for winning your track meet. In Brampton, Ontario, and this is happening across the world, actually, these are kindness citations, where if the police catch you, a young child, doing something good, they reward you, in this case, with a Frosty that has 444 calories and 26 teaspoons of sugar in it. And the argument that gets made all the time is that, oh, Yoni, you're just such a stick in the mud. It's just one. It's just one Frosty. It's just one French fry. It's just one pizza. It's just one cupcake. But it's not just one. If it were just one, I would agree this lecture would be nonsensical. But it is constant. This is a city-run camp. Every day, Tuesdays, this is the meal. There's no other options. This is the meal option. Hot dogs, potato chips, and juice on Tuesdays. Pizza, cookies, and juice on Wednesdays. Chicken sliders, cookies, and juice on Thursdays. Fridays, fries, freezies, and juice are lunch. And this is a city-run camp. This isn't somebody putting this together in their backyard trying to save money. This is the city trying to save money. This is the city trying not to care. When I was checking out from a local supermarket recently, I was asked, do I want to spend $3 to buy a cookie to help support the children's hospital in my town, and $1 will go to the children's hospital? And if they'd asked me, would I give $1 to the children's hospital, I'd have said yes. But why is the children's hospital selling cookies to make money? And this fundraising with junk food is constant too. There are pizza programs where you can go and make money for your school by buying and eating pizza. Pizza, by the way, was recently found to be the single sole source provider of sodium in children's diet, and it is the #2 sole source provider of calories behind sugar-sweetened beverages. Here, this is the Slices for Smiles program. This program is run in conjunction with the foundations for all of the children's hospitals across my country. It's been running for 7 years now, where for 2 weeks, these hospitals are selling pizzas, normalizing fast food, giving permission for fast food in the name of fundraising. And the pizza company that does this, they brag about the fact they've given $1 million over the course of the past 7 years. Sounds like an awful lot. Take $1 million, divide it by 7 years and 12 hospitals, and these hospitals are now selling pizzas, literally, for 2 weeks, for $11,000 each a year. That does not strike me as a wise thing to do. This was an advertisement in the Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. Buy any 2 slices of pizza, 1 slice is not going to be enough for you. You'll need to have 2 because you can get a movie admission and maybe you want to buy a bag of chips along with it. In that Halifax talk, I was walking around downtown and I came across this candy store. So I'll blow up the sign in the window for you. Candy for Kids Day, where the proceeds go to the Children's Hospital. This I pulled off the net yesterday. This is something called ClimbCore. It's a health organization running out of Harvard that's dedicated to heart health, that's fundraising by selling pizza, where 30% of the profits go there to fight heart disease. Buy pizza to fight heart disease. This is the message. This came in my mailbox, where Breakfast for Learning is Canada's national nonprofit for encouraging breakfast and providing breakfast to people who don't get it as far as food insecurity goes. And of course, this was tied to Nutella. This particular package came with some Nutella. In case you don't know, Nutella, if you compare it to chocolate icing, literally chocolate icing, Nutella has 25% more sugar and 27% more calorie than chocolate icing. If you want to add something to your kid's toast in the morning that is healthier than Nutella, it might actually be chocolate icing. This is, the next thing we've done is we've tied food to sport. This is a bank of vending machines. There's 19 at this local arena that I go to. This is a few of those. This little guy, just a few weeks ago, got a snow cone after doing a family run that was 100 meters long. This is from the Kids of Steel Triathlon. Kids of Steel Triathlons involve running for 200 meters, swimming for 25 meters, and cycling for 1 kilometer. This was the grab bag that the child got at the end of this Kids of Steel Triathlon. 450 calories, 15 teaspoons of sugar, and the message that exercising earns junk food. Hockey is a big deal in Canada. Hockey in Canada is a big deal to the food industry. Tim Hortons Timbits, the kids are actually called Timbits, are skating around. They are supporting hockey all across our country. When the kids get a little bit older, they become atomic hockey players, where the Mick is from McDonald's. And if they play penalty-free hockey, something perhaps they should aspire to do anyhow, they now are awarded with free French fries with the purchase of a regular slice and pop. And this is run by Hockey Canada. And then there's real life, the loot bags. I mean, this audience is fairly young, but the folks here who have kids know that it is party after party. And while these are a bit extreme, certainly giving kids loot bags full of junk food is a very normal phenomenon. If my kid bends so much as a single blade of grass, it would seem someone is handing her a lollipop or a popsicle or an ice cream sandwich. Pizza days are a common phenomenon in schools, where the schools say, well, we can't possibly fundraise any other way. There's no way else that we could possibly make money than to normalize the use and provision of fast food on a weekly basis in a child's life. And then there's chocolate milk. That's a whole other lecture. But chocolate milk has double the calories and 20% more sugar than Coca-Cola. Suggesting milk is so magical that that is what you should feed kids who don't like milk. If you believe that, then I would encourage you also to feed your kids pies if they don't like fruit. That is not the way it works. So we have a very unlevel playing field, a very unlevel playing field. And really, I think that everybody in this room would agree now, if they hadn't already agreed, that it is not just one, that we use food constantly to pacify, to reward. We are selling junk food for the food industry constantly. But what's also amazing is that we, being society as a whole, tend to also fall back on this as the solution. Parents can just say no. This is the solution to everything. The billions and billions and billions of marketing dollars, parents can just say no to. The schools, the hockey, the hospital fundraising, everything. We can say no to it. And yes, it is true that we can. But should we have to? Now, in terms of fighting floods, before fighting the floods, this is us. We're the chicken. So the world around us are the tigers, and people are expecting us, the chicken, to have the wherewithal to pull it together on a regular basis and evaluate our environment and talk about no and what we should and shouldn't do. And so, flood-wise, when you're faced with a flood, there's something logical that occurs. You make sandbags, you stack them, and you build levees. Now, rather than shake our fist at the food industry and ask them to fill sandbags, I think that's our job. Start at home. This is not home cooking. This is not home cooking. This is more like home cooking. And you know, we start in our own kitchens. We reclaim them. We recultivate love affairs with cooking. We teach our children the life skill of cooking. There are kids growing up today who are 3 generations removed from regular home cooking. And once we get our own sandbags filled, let's go to our own communities, to the schools, to the sporting arenas, to parent organizations. We start with all of those sandbags because unlike the food industry, those do care. And rather than shake our fists at people who don't have the luxury of caring, I think we need to shake it at ourselves. I think we've caused this problem to a large degree. We've let this happen, this normalization of convenience. It's going to be a huge fight to make that change, but at the very least, we'll be fighting people who care. Thank you very much.